think she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point, and also like she's good at basketball, obviously. But like she understands her privilege is like what pushes her over the top in a sense. It reminds.
The WNBA is in total upheaval, and Caitlin Clark is right at the eye of the storm. She's facing fouls at an astonishing rate, some bone-jarring, some borderline shocking. And too often referees are turning a blind eye. But now, Clark has finally broken her silence, revealing explosive details that could shake the league to its core. Could this be the moment that forces the WNBA to confront its toughest challenges yet? Stay tuned. This story is far from over. Caitlin Clark, the rookie who shook the WNBA. From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped into the WNBA spotlight, it was as if the entire league had been jolted awake. Not because she campaigned for attention, but because her presence made ignoring her impossible. The Indiana Fever signed her, and overnight, the once-overlooked franchise transformed into a national headline. Ticket sales through the roof. Merchandise flying off shelves, media coverage saturating every sports feed, and the numbers, they were staggering. League app engagement skyrocketed by over 6,000%. Subscriptions leaped by more than 300%, and jerseys bearing her name became near impossible to find. The Indiana Fever's franchise value didn't just rise, it tripled. And yet, for all this success, Clark's season has ended not in celebration, but in frustration. After months of brutal fouls, zero protection, and the kind of target aggression that would make any rookie think twice, she's officially out. Not because she couldn't handle the pressure her stats proved otherwise, but because a league that benefited most from her star power seemingly failed to shield her from repeated hits. Fans watched as week after week she absorbed punishing contact that went largely unchecked. For many, this was baffling. You'd expect the WNBA to protect its biggest draw, maybe even build a season around her. After all, she wasn't just good for the Fever. She was good for the league as a whole. Instead, her rise seemed to trigger something else entirely. Tension. By outperforming and outshining some of the league's most established stars, including three-time MVP Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces, Clark stepped unknowingly into a minefield of politics, pride, and perception. Wilson, an undeniable force in the WNBA, publicly addressed the attention Clark was receiving right after she was drafted. While Wilson's words were measured, the subtext was clear. Clark's sudden dominance and the media frenzy around her weren't going unnoticed by veterans. And for some, that shift in spotlight felt like an intrusion. The conversation quickly left the court, spilling into debates about race, favoritism, and whether the WNBA was truly embracing Clark's impact or quietly resenting it. Clark herself never asked for that drama. She showed up, played her game, and delivered highlight after highlight. But with every buzzer beater and every sold-out arena, the whispers grew louder. Was the WNBA ready for this kind of attention? Or was it scrambling to balance the old guard with the new golden goose? The tragedy here isn't just that Clark is sidelined. It's that she's stepping away at a moment when her influence is at its peak, when the energy she brought to women's basketball could have been nurtured, celebrated, and protected. Instead, her rookie years ended in a cloud of what-ifs and lingering questions about whether the league mishandled the very player who was rewriting its story. But what really happened to the rookie who took the hardest hits in the game? Keep watching. The rookie who took the hardest hits in the game. She's stepping away. That's the headline no one expected. And the whispers behind it are even louder. Not because she's past her prime, she's barely begun. Not because she's lost her edge, her game remains electric. But because this season, her rookie year no less, has pushed her body and patience to the absolute brink. It's not just exhaustion from the spotlight. It's the bruises, the relentless pounding, and the unshakable feeling that the court has turned into a battlefield. Here's the part that makes jaws drop. In the 2024 WNBA season, she took 17% of all flagrant and hard fouls in the league. One player, just one, absorbing nearly a fifth of the most brutal hits in professional women's basketball. Let that sink in. That's more than double what the next closest player endured. Double. At that point, can anyone still call it coincidence? Or is it something far more deliberate? These weren't your standard bumps or friendly fouls. We're talking midair collisions that send players sprawling blindside shoulder checks that belong on a rugby pitch, not on hardwood. Some fans joke that the slow-motion replays look like scenes from an action movie. The difference in the movies, the stunts are choreographed. Here, the hits are painfully real. And then there's a refereeing or lack of it. Viral clips show her taking 3 or 4 fouls in a single possession with not a single whistle blown, just silence, crickets, as if the officials had collectively decided to let her tough it out, even when the contact crossed a line from competitive to dangerous. For many, that's the part that stings the most, because in any other top sports league, you'd expect protection for your brightest young star. Yet here, despite the constant contact, not a single opposing player was suspended for any of it. Some were warned. Most walked away without even a fine. Meanwhile, she was left to ice her bruises and get ready for the next game. Off the court, the tension is just as sharp. There's a subtle, sometimes not so subtle commentary from other players. The side remarks caught on hot mics. The digs made when cameras are rolling. It's personal. At least that's how it feels to her supporters. And when questions of race and favoritism creep into conversation, the atmosphere only gets heavier. Still, what makes this situation so gripping isn't just the fouls. It's the bigger question of why. Why would the league allow one player, especially one bringing so much attention to the game, to be treated like this? Is it resentment over her rapid rise? Is it a calculated move to test her resilience? Or is it just an ugly oversight that spiraled out of control? Whatever the reason, the result is the same. A young star stepping away not from lack of talent, but from the toll of constant unchecked hits. And as fans replay the footage and dissect every angle, one truth feels impossible to ignore. She's not just playing against her opponents. She's playing against the system. But what hidden truth lies beneath this? Mere foul play or something far more sinister? Stay connected? Foul play or something deeper? It was supposed to be just another season of thrilling basketball, highlight reels, and buzzer beaters. Yet somewhere between the whistles and the roaring crowds, the WNBA found itself caught in a storm no one could ignore. And at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark, the rookie, who in less than a year went from promising newcomer to the most polarizing figure in the league. From the moment Clark stepped onto court, her rise was meteoric. Endorsements, national media coverage, primetime slots, all arriving with speed that even the most seasoned veterans rarely see. To some, it was well-deserved recognition for extraordinary talent. To others, it was a painful reminder of years spent grinding without the same opportunities. Those feelings, raw and unfiltered, began bubbling over. And according to Io Wilson, a 3-time MVP and one of the league's most respected voices, it's impossible to pretend race doesn't play a role. She didn't sugarcoat it. She said it plainly on a live mic. Race is a factor, and denying it is infuriating. That one statement peeled back a layer of the conversation that had been simmering for months. Clark herself never mentioned race, never claimed victimhood, and never publicly pointed fingers. But as soon as she became the face of the league, the atmosphere shifted. The tension wasn't just in the headlines. It was on the court. Hard fouls began stacking up, and the whispers turned into accusations. Was this simply tough basketball or something far more personal? For some veteran black players, the frustration seemed understandable. They had put in years of work, racked up impressive stats, and still never tasted the same level of endorsement deals or nationwide attention. Now, here came a white rookie with all eyes on her, and the resentment was impossible to hide. But when that resentment spills over into what looks and feels like targeted on-court retaliation, the conversation changes. Clark's teammate Sophie Cunningham didn't mince words when she called out the league for failing to protect its star. And she wasn't talking about casual bumps or harmless trash talk. We're talking about weekly hits, aggressive plays that blur the line between defense and danger, and a sense that officials and executives are looking the other way. That's not just part of the game. That's a problem. Wilson's candid remarks brought the cultural and racial undercurrents to the surface, while Clark's silence on the matter only made the tension more glaring. She seemed determined to keep her head down and play. Yet, every elbow thrown her way became part of a bigger story. Whether she wanted it or not, she was now the flashpoint for decades of frustration over recognition, representation, and respect in women's basketball. So, here's the question that keeps fans debating long after the final buzzer. Is Caitlin Clark just a victim of overly physical play? Or is she carrying the weight of a league's unresolved issues? Whatever the answer, one thing certain, this isn't just about basketball anymore. And with the season still unfolding, the real game might be happening far beyond the scoreboard. But what happens when a legendary Michael Jordan effect takes an unexpected turn? Stay tuned and find out. The Michael Jordan effect gone wrong. Not every superstar walks onto the court, knowing they'll face more than just a game. Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA with a storm of promise in 2021, shattering rookie marketing records and captivating fans nationwide. She wasn't just a player. She became a symbol of excitement, energy, and hope for a league that many have forgotten existed. But what should have been a story of triumph has taken a darker, more complicated turn. From the very beginning, Clark's brilliance drew attention, and with it, relentless targeting on the court. Fans and analysts alike noticed it immediately. The way she was fouled, the way referees seemed to let others get away with what would be unthinkable against any other top athlete. By 2023, whispers of injustice had grown into full-blown discussion. This wasn't about a single missed call or bad game. It was a consistent, troubling pattern. Observers began comparing her treatment to the standard of play for other league stars, and the gap was glaring. Caitlin Clark was being pushed, hammered, and sidelined, not for what she did wrong, but simply for existing at the very top of her game. Legally speaking, experts are calling it textbook hostile work environment territory. Under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, harassment doesn't require shouted slurs or overt threats. Repeated, degrading, unequal treatment is enough. And in Clark's case, the numbers speak for themselves. Double the flagrant fouls, more aggressive physical play, and an institutional shrug from leadership. The Wall Street Journal didn't mince words, warning the WNBA that a civil rights lawsuit may already be ticking toward eruption. They described it as a league ignoring its most valuable asset, treating her brilliance not as a triumph, but as a PR headache. Remember Harris versus Forklift Systems in 1993? That landmark case made it clear. A hostile environment doesn't need punches or insults in your face. Repeated degrading behavior alone qualifies. And once unequal treatment is proven, as established in the Tossenberry case with the Texas Department of Community Affairs, the burden shifts to the employer. By any legal measure, the pattern of targeting Clark on the court fits these standards. But beyond the legalities, there's a human story. Clark is hurt, frustrated, and sidelined for season. She came in to play basketball, to elevate the sport, and to inspire millions, and now she faces a crushing weight of both physical and institutional pressure. Fans can only speculate. Why does the league allow this to continue? Could this be a sign of bias within leadership or a systemic failure to protect its most transformative star? As debate swirls, one thing is clear. Caitlin Clark's journey isn't just a rookie's rise. It's a spotlight on accountability, fairness, and the fight to safeguard greatness when it dares to shine in a league that has long needed a hero. But what shocking truths are journalists revealing about the storm surrounding Caitlin Clark? Stay glued to your screen. Journalists speak out the storm surrounding Caitlin Clark. Not every rookie season is simply about learning the ropes. For Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever guard, who has already become one of the most marketable figures in women's basketball, this year has unfolded like a high-stakes drama, equal parts triumph and turbulence. Her journey hasn't just been about basketball. It's been about navigating a league where talent, image, and politics crash together in full view of the public. It wasn't long ago that ESPN analyst Rebecca Lobo openly pointed out what many fans had already noticed. Nearly every heavy contact against Clark could have been called a foul, yet the whistle stayed silent. Sophie Cunningham, now Clark's teammate, admitted that back when she played for Phoenix, her team actually discussed how physical they would be with Clark. Now, even standing beside her in the same locker room, Sophie says the targeting has gone too far. If your own teammate thinks you're being singled out, that speaks volumes. And it's not just about fouls. Earlier this year, a staggering one, 29 million All-Star votes were cast for Clark, a league-shaking number. Yet, she still landed ninth among guards and player voting. Dick Vital didn't mince words, calling it pure jealousy. arguing that many players haven't acknowledged what Clark has already done for the league. Chartered flights, higher salaries, sold-out arenas, and improved TV ratings. Beneath the surface, another more delicate conversation has been unfolding. Clark's race, sexuality, and marketability set her apart in a league where not every star shares those traits. Whether openly stated or quietly harbored, resentment exists. Candace Wiggins, a former WNBA player, once claimed she was bullied out of the league for being straight. While the situations aren't identical, some can't help but wonder if Clark is now facing her own version of that experience. Not just for how well she plays, but for who she is. And this is where it stops being just a sports story. When whispers turn toward potential discrimination, it enters civil rights territory. Reports suggest that the Department of Justice has taken notice, which raises the stakes far beyond the basketball court. In this light, the silence from the league's leadership, especially Commissioner Kathy Angel-Burt, becomes impossible to ignore. Her role isn't just about business growth. It's about safeguarding the league's most valuable players. Yet, game after game, Clark takes hits, and the official response is nothing. For fans, the questions keep stacking up. Is this simply part of the physical nature of the sport? Or is it something far more personal and targeted? Could unresolved tensions inside the league be overshadowing its growth potential? And if that's the case, how long can leadership remain silent before the storm becomes impossible to contain? Caitlin Clark's story isn't just about scoring points. It's about the collision of fame, identity, and power in a league trying to define itself in the spotlight. And as this season unfolds, one thing is certain. The real battle may not be happening between the baselines, but behind closed doors. But what unexpected storm is about to shake the WNBA to its core? Stay with us and find out. The WNBA storm nobody saw coming. Basketball is supposed to be a game of skill, teamwork, and excitement. But for Caitlin Clark, the court has become a stage for something much bigger: tension, politics, and controversy. In 2025, the WNBA's brightest star found herself at the center of a storm no highlight reel could capture. Imagine breaking fan vote records with 29 million all-star votes and still being ranked 9th among guards on the player ballot. Imagine leading ticket sales and viewership while facing sidelining decisions that leave fans outraged. The All-Star Game, expected to be a league-wide celebration, instead saw ratings drop by 55%. Fans noticed, owners noticed, and suddenly so did lawmakers. Behind the headlines, Clark's situation paints a far more troubling picture. Leaked comments from players and internal chatter suggest she's been targeted by the court. Referees allegedly instructed to let them play even if it meant Clark got hurt. Sophie Cunningham publicly stated Clark wasn't being protected, while A.A. Wilson admitted the situation boiled her blood. These weren't whispers or exaggerations. These were public on camera, words revealing a hostile environment. In this context, questions about race, fairness, and workplace rights start to emerge. Is her right to a safe, non-hostile workplace being violated? Could federal authorities step in? Indeed, the Department of Justice, the Labor Department, and even Congress have begun asking questions, with Senator Jim Banks sending a formal demanding letter to Commissioner Kathy Angel-Burt. Suddenly, this isn't just a sports story. It's a legal, political, and financial headache rolled into one. And then there's the Olympic snub. The very player driving league growth and fan engagement was left off the USA team, sparking outrage and speculation. Why would the league overlook its own star under these circumstances? Clark herself called out the double standards, saying opponents get away with things they wouldn't do to others. On the court, she faced flagrant fouls, elbows, and collisions, while the game protectors, the referees, looked the other way. Off the court, the media largely stayed silent. No thick pieces, no network specials, no deep dives into what millions of fans already sensed. Something was off. Even league owners joined the downplay, with Sheila Johnson suggesting other players deserve the spotlight more. A puzzling comment from someone who benefits from Clark's enormous draw. The emotional toll of all this cannot be overstated. For a player of Clark's talent and charisma, it isn't just about missed opportunities. It's about being caught in a system that seems unwilling to protect its brightest star. So, here's a question fans are asking. How can one player carry a league on her back and still face such resistance? What's really happened behind the scenes? And could these controversies finally force the WNBA to confront uncomfortable truths? As the story unfolds, it's clear that Caitlin Clark isn't just battling opponents on the court. She's battling a storm that stretches far beyond basketball. But what exactly do you think drove Caitlin Clark to finally speak out after the league's shocking ultimatum? And what could it mean for the WNBA? We'd like to hear your thoughts.